Ask a musician what went through their mind during a subpar performance, and in most cases, they'll be able to tell you exactly what they were thinking. From worrying about what their teacher, colleagues, or the audience might think, to being frustrated about reeds, the instrument, acoustics, or how tight their muscles feel, there's usually a long list of things that took their attention hostage during the performance. Ask what goes through their mind on a good day, and the answer is often much shorter, and also rather vague. Many will say that they're thinking about the music, or sometimes that they're not thinking about anything at all. So what does this mean? What exactly should we be thinking about during a performance if we want to play at the highest level possible? We've already talked about how practice and performance are different activities and have unique demands. One of the distinguishing characteristics of performance mode is the lack of judgment and analysis that is a defining characteristic of effective practice. So in essence, performing our best requires that we be able to flip the switch from practice mode to performance mode on command, and adopt a mindset that is pretty much 180 degrees in the other direction from what we spend most of our time doing in the practice room. How do we do this? By keeping your mind too busy to worry, analyze, judge, critique, and engage in all the unhelpful thoughts that not only have a tendency to derail your performance, but make it difficult to enjoy yourself on stage too. In a 2009 study, a trio of researchers put a mindfulness-based technique to the test to gauge both the enjoyment and engagement of the musicians who utilized it, as well as the response of the audience. 60 members of a college orchestra were asked to perform the finale from Brahms' Symphony No. 1 2 times. Right before playing it through the first time, the conductor asked the musicians to, quote, "Think about the finest performance of this piece that you can remember and play it that way," end quote. On the surface, this seems like a perfectly reasonable and aspirational goal, but it's a relatively passive one, geared more towards recreating an ideal performance rather than creating something new in the moment. Prior to the second performance, the musicians were instructed to, quote, "Play this piece in the finest manner you can, offering subtle new nuances to your performance," end quote. These instructions were all about getting musicians to be more present, to focus less on replicating some ideal performance from the past, and think and play more creatively, spontaneously, and improvisationally in the moment. The musicians were asked to rate their enjoyment of the performance after each run-through, and not surprisingly, they rated the more mindful improvisational performance as being more enjoyable. Even more intriguing, perhaps, is how the audience responded. Recordings of each take were played back for 143 members of a local community chorus. 88% expressed a preference between the two recordings, and 83% of those who had a preference preferred the mindful, subtle new nuance performance. So not only were the musicians more engaged in the performance itself, but the listeners found the mindful performance more compelling as well. Telling ourselves to focus on the music may be good advice, but for many that feels too vague to be practically useful, especially in high-pressure situations. However, an instruction like "offer subtle new nuances to your performance" is specific enough to give us a clear idea what we ought to focus our attention on. Furthermore, doing so forces you to keep your mind in the present. And given that we can really only focus on one thing at a time, it doesn't allow any room for us to worry about the future, dwell on the past, think about the audience, or any other such thoughts that might derail our performance or increase our anxiety. Because once we allow our attention to go there, we're no longer creating and shaping the music that we're playing in the current moment.